Welcome back to Prison Bio Breakdown, where the bios are smooth, but the backstories are doing 25 to life. Today's inmate isn't just searching for a pen pal, he's building a nonprofit, quoting civil rights law, writing poetry, and asking the internet to believe he's factually innocent. Oh, and he also says he's not actually innocent, but also not guilty? Meet Tony Harris, also known as Dyshaun Bright, currently serving life in prison for the 2017 murder of Kevin Raymond. According to court records, Tony shot Kevin 3 times in a dark parking lot in Somerville, Massachusetts. His DNA was found on the murder weapon and a gold chain at the scene. Surveillance footage placed him driving the suspect vehicle. A jury convicted him in 2023. But online, he's not leading with any of that. He's leading with falsely convicted, seeking legal help, and a little thing called Brody, a prison nonprofit he started from behind bars. Let's break it down. Kevin Raymond was just 20 years old. He had a promising high school football career at Somerville High School, where he played running back for the Highlanders. He had recently moved on to college to play as a linebacker for Franklin Pierce University's sprint football team in New Hampshire. The university's president, Kim Mooney, stated, Kevin was a gifted athlete who made many friends on campus and was well liked by fellow students. Friends say he was a good person that everyone liked and enjoyed being around. This is crazy. He didn't deserve it. I wish it wasn't him, said his friend Alton Palmer. On October 14, 2017, at approximately 3:40 a.m., Somerville police received a call about gunshots near Jaquez Street. When officers arrived, Kevin had already been transported to CHA Hospital, where he was pronounced dead, less than a week before his 21st birthday. He had been shot 3 times. Later that evening, more than 40 people, including Kevin's brother and many friends, gathered for a candlelight vigil in the same parking lot inside a Somerville public housing development where Kevin was shot. Police located the crime scene in a parking lot behind 20 Canal Street. There, they found a revolver and a gold chain, both containing Tony Harris's DNA. Multiple surveillance videos show Tony driving a vehicle matching the suspect vehicle seen in the area of the murder. Investigators were also able to locate a video featuring Tony wearing a gold chain that matched the gold chain found in the parking lot. In addition to the revolver and chain, both containing Tony's DNA, records show that Kevin's blood was found in the vehicle that Tony was driving on the night of the shooting. Kevin's phone and belongings were found with him, so investigators knew this wasn't a robbery. It was personal. A resident of the Somerville public housing development told police that he had seen Kevin and some other people in their early 20s gathered in the parking lot a few hours before the shooting. They appeared to be working on a subwoofer in the trunk of a parked car. Although Tony was arrested just weeks later, no public motive was ever released. No known connection between he and Kevin was ever established in court. But there's more to Tony's past and present than this one conviction.
Tonight, the man accused in the shooting death of a former Franklin Pierce football player is being held without bail. Tony Harris is charged in the murder of Kevin Raymond in a Somerville, Mass. Parking lot. Prosecutors say Harris shot and killed the 20-year-old on October 14th. Raymond was rushed to the hospital but did not survive.
Tony Harris was arrested on November 3, 2017, and charged with second-degree murder and multiple illegal firearm possession charges. But the story doesn't start there. In 2007, he had already been convicted of armed assault with intent to murder and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Because of those, the state later charged him as an armed career criminal during sentencing. On June 7, 2023, Tony was found guilty of second-degree murder. On July 27, 2023, he was convicted under the Armed Career Criminal Statute. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. His listed release date is August 9, 2042, but that's only if the parole board agrees to his release. I did try to search for more information about his past charges. He is said to have a lengthy criminal history dating back to his teens, but I was unable to find previous court or arrest records. The only information I found was that in 2018, after the murder but before the trial, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison after pleading guilty to gun and drug charges and to damaging the Beverly Housing Authority apartment where his ex-girlfriend and their child lived. According to police, he was initially charged with a domestic violence strangulation, but the charges were dropped while the case was pending. After the incident with his ex-girlfriend, she called the police and they found him on a pathway nearby. Inside his backpack were an illegal firearm and several bags of cocaine. And yet, if you read his pen pal bio, you might be inclined to think that none of this happened. Tony Harris isn't just looking for love or friendship. He's building a personal brand. On writeaprisoner.com, he writes, "I'm serving 25 to life for second-degree murder. I know this may sound typical, but I was wrongly convicted. I'm not actually innocent, but I am factually innocent. God willing, I'll be home in the next few years. More than anything, I'm looking for a woman I can build with, but I understand my circumstances and will appreciate having a friendship with no expectations. Due to the police and prosecutorial misconduct in my case, I was inspired to start a nonprofit, Brody, BIPOC rights organization dismantling inequities. It would be nice to meet people interested in dismantling inequalities within the criminal legal system. Other than that, I enjoy conversing with people who have wisdom, are down to earth, or who have a good sense of humor. Reach out so we can vibe, learn, and laugh." This is a poem that I wrote, inspired by the way incarcerated people are treated when they are trying to change. Being factually innocent is a phrase he repeats in podcast interviews. The logic? Because he wasn't convicted on all charges filed against him, he believes that's proof of factual innocence.
The prosecutor looked like they seen a ghost when the verdict came back, because the verdict was guilty of second-degree murder, but not guilty of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. So they saying, I didn't shoot him, but I'm guilty of shooting him to death.
But that's not a thing, at least not in any legal sense. And while he talks about wrongful conviction, he has no known appeals, no pending post-conviction relief, and no exoneration effort in motion. While I won't subject you to the poem Unspoken Words, I will recite one stanza that made my eyes roll. "You Googled my name, read about what his story claims. What about my side? Do you care about the truth, or do I deserve to hang from a modern-day noose?" It's full of metaphors about being judged unfairly, being too intellectual for the streets, and not fitting the narrative. Nowhere in the poem is Kevin Raymond mentioned. Not his name, not his life, not his death. But Tony does mention being misunderstood and targeted. He does have Brody, a prison nonprofit he claims to have started. No EIN, no 501c3, no trackable presence, just a name and a cause on paper. He also fails to mention the domestic violence charge, but since that charge was dropped, in his logic, that clears him of wrongdoing entirely. What he does include, though, in his prison phone interviews is an attempt to continue to build his rap collective. Yes, I said rap collective. He even raps over the phone.
"Oh, this pain in my life that made my life stressful. When I turn up on my blessings and my life special. Beat the system on this wisdom in my God's vessel. It sure feels like it. That's why I'm still fighting. That's why my mind's still free with a murder indictment."
No, I'll pass. Before his conviction, Tony had a YouTube channel under the name Dyshaun Bright and was trying to launch a music group or rap collective called Ivy League. The YouTube channel is still there and contains his and others' music from the Ivy League. He seems like a person obsessed with his image. Even now, he often posts photos of himself flexing on his nonprofit account or AI answers about why he was wrongfully convicted. Spoiler alert, he is claiming self-defense and letting AI explain why the flight or fight response justifies murder. If you take a look over his YouTube channel and SoundCloud, he has songs called Crime Rate, Killers, Beat the Case, You Think You Know, My Bros, and more. The only rap I listen to is from the 80s and 90s, so I don't feel like I'm a good person to judge his music, but it is definitely not my cup of tea.
The D saying that we impact players. Fuck, gun a nigga down and get the flexing on the haze. Drop your man in front of you. Don't let them peoples break you. Give you a shot and another for a chase. Hey, we them niggas boosting the crowd, right? Hey, we them niggas boosting the crowd, right?
If you like rap, let me know what you think of his music down in the comments. So now, you've got a man convicted of murder with a violent record who's calling himself a leader, a poet, and an activist, but hasn't said a single word, not one line, about the man whose life ended with 3 bullets. As noted before, Tony recently called in for the Bounce Back podcast. It is an hour and a half with an awkward rap that I won't make you listen to. However, I did write down some key points. Tony insists he acted in self-defense, but was overcharged and wrongfully convicted. According to him, the Commonwealth pursued a premeditated murder theory, despite no witnesses saying he initiated the altercation. The jury found him guilty of second-degree murder, but not guilty of an assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, a contradiction he uses to claim factual innocence. He says the outcome was politically motivated and that public defenders couldn't adequately fight the system. He also argues that court-appointed attorneys often move in the same circles as judges and prosecutors, creating a conflict of interest. He says legal outcomes often depend more on politics than law, and claims no appeals have been successful because of politics overriding the law. Now, don't get me wrong. I know our legal system needs an update. It doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. However, I find the random claim of self-defense to be a bit ludicrous, especially since it's clear he drove up and confronted Kevin, though we may never be sure what actually happened. Tony Harris wants you to hear the verses. He wants you to donate to the cause. He wants you to write letters and maybe, just maybe, believe in his version of innocence. But here's the thing. Kevin Raymond is dead. He was just 20 years old, a former football star, someone trying to make his way in the world. He had people who loved him, and he's been erased from the narrative Tony Harris is crafting from his prison cell. There is no mention of the crime, no reflection, no remorse, no truth, just branding. So if you find yourself reading his profile and thinking, he seems like a decent guy, just remember, he had a chance to tell the full story, and he chose not to. Tony Harris says he's factually innocent, spiritually aware, and socially engaged. But the facts, they say something else. That's it for this episode of Prison Bio Breakdown. Let us know what you think. Would you write to Tony Harris? Do you buy what he's selling? Hit like, subscribe, and share if you're into deep dives, twisted bios, and sour truths dressed up as sweet. Join us back here next week on Prison Bio Breakdown, where the bios are sweet and the crimes are sour.